Welcome to your Directors Club of America podcast and backstage pass to the biggest names in the game, the Power Players. I'm Jennifer Gelhaus, your co-host along Kyla Kwa. Today, we invite you to listen to a conversation with Todd Harbour. He is the general manager at Royal Oaks Country Club. Enjoy this episode and make sure to subscribe. And if you want to keep the conversation going, we invite you to follow us on LinkedIn, comment on our post, and let us know what you think. Remember, no filter needed. Enjoy. Welcome to Power Players. Today we welcome Todd Harbour. He's the GM at Royal Oaks Country Club in Dallas, Texas.
Doing great. It's sunny. We've had a lot of rain up in the North Texas over the past really month. So I think we got maybe a good 7 days of sun, which is good. We need the rain, but I'm ready. It's beautiful. I think it's going to be 76 today and sunny. So people will be playing golf and tennis and pickleball and then bridge and everything else. It'll be great. Yeah.
Nice. It's 90 something degrees here in Florida, so I'm quite jealous.
We got that coming next week. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Love it. We're going to send it over your way, Todd, with the hot weather. But I want to start off with a burning question. I had the privilege of visiting your club back in October of 2023. I met up with Jared and we had lunch and got to meet you. And I noticed there was a palpable energy with the staff, with the membership. Everyone seemed happy. And I know it's not that way with every single club, but it seemed to be that way with your club. So I guess my question is, what's the first thing you need to do to change a culture, and why is that important?
That's a great question. When I came in there about 12 years ago, the culture and that vibe you're talking about was definitely non-existent. And I think it's the hardest thing to change. It's like turning a battleship around. And I would say it took me a good 2 years. And honestly, that it ultimately starts with me, right? It starts with me, my attitude, how I come into work every day. Look, we all have tough days. We all have tough situations. Everybody deals with life and situations and family stuff and all that. My motto has always been, when you pull in that front gate past security at the club and you shut the door, you leave it in there. And so for me, I'm setting the tone for the entire club and the entire staff. So if I'm off, first of all, they're not going to know it. And it's probably very rare if it happens anyway. But I have to set the tone, and it starts really when I get there. And so it was tough. It was a tough when the members didn't trust management or the board and the staff didn't trust management. It was tough. But yeah, we've created a pretty unique situation, and it's pretty special. Yesterday was a great example. We had a big ladies. It was Cinco de Mayo. I told Jared he should have called it Cinco de Siete because it was May 7th. But on top of that, so there's about 80 women for that, and it was great. And then we had a big ladies member guest. So it just was great energy yesterday. And it just reminds me of really Royal Oaks and what the essence of who we are is. Yeah.
So what do you boil it down to when you talk about culture? Because how would you define it, and how have you established it?
I think it's probably the biggest thing, and I don't want to disparage any of the clubs or anything because there's some great clubs out there, I think, with very good cultures. But I go to a lot of different clubs for different reasons where it just, you don't feel that energy, that excitement. And, I think it boils down to really the commitment. Again, to me, I don't believe you can hire people to have that internal drive that want to take care of people, want to, at every step of the way, they really want to just go above and beyond and take care of people. I think you have to have that on the inside. There's people that through the world, and that doesn't matter where you go, whether it's the golf course, tennis, whether you're at a restaurant, church, whatever, that don't have that inherent desire, really want to take care of people and to do whatever they can to really make their day. It reminds me of the situation when you go to Disney, and my youngest is 30. I've got three of them, 30, 32, and 34. I've got 4 grandkids and one on the way, which I'm still trying to figure out how that happened because I'm way too young for that. But, we took the kids to Disney. At every step of the way, every interaction there, they just made you feel great about being there. And so you have to, that's the internal drive you have to get. And it can't just be me. It's got to breed out between to my executive team. But it can't even be there. It can't stop there. It's got to just continue to filter down. And if you don't have the right leadership, if you don't have the right leaders, I can't do it all. I need Jarrett, my director of rackets, to make sure he instills that in his staff, from the professionals to the tennis shop staff to even the people working out, taking care of the tennis courts. And same thing from golf course superintendent, my head golf professional, director of fitness, everybody. And you've got to have that consistent feel, they've got to know that it's not fake, because people know if you're fake. Everybody can sense that for the most part. So it takes a long time, but I think ultimately I'm probably not very good at a lot, but I'm really good at hiring the right people and keeping people working for me a long time. I generally don't have people leave. And I think it's hard when you go. I don't ever want to wake up, and I tell this to all my team, right? Is I don't ever want to wake up and be like, "Ah, shit, I got to go to work today." That's a terrible feeling. I instilled that in my kids. Do something you love. Now, is every day bubbles and sunshine and greatness? No, there's some stressful days. There's hard days in any job. Doesn't matter what you do. But you have to love what you do, and you can love what you do, but you're not going to love what you do if you don't have the. And I think it's hard to describe to a certain degree. When you walk into certain clubs, it almost feels like heavy. It just feels, I don't want to say dark is not the right word, but you just don't feel that excitement, the energy, and you're only gonna get that energy, and it's just a trickle down effect. I think it starts with me. I'm high energy. I'm always smiling. I'm in a good mood, and if I'm not, nobody's gonna know anyway. And then it trickles down to my executive team, and then down to their managers, and then their supervisors, all the way down again. And the other side is, I think to do that, you have to know your people, right? It's one thing, like for me as the GM and the chief operating officer, I can tell you every employee in the club. Now, we're going to get this summer, there's going to be 350 of them, and I've probably got about 200 now. So we're going to really elevate with camps and all that stuff and pool. But I can tell you, whether it's the Adelma that works in laundry, been at the club for 43 years, right? Whose husband is Adolfo, the mechanic down at golf course maintenance. I can tell you about them. And now sometimes there's some Spanish or language barriers. And I know enough to hurt myself because they think I know it, and then I get lost in the conversation. But you have to know your people. And I'll never walk past a staff member at my club, or a member, obviously, but never a staff member without saying hello. If they don't speak English, I'll say hola. And I think that breeds respect, right? So they know I respect them, and there's a mutual respect, because you don't demand respect, you earn it. And it took me a long time to get there, just because of the lack of trust. But I really think that's how you drive that. And it starts in here, and then it starts to expand and grow. And then you get people that want to come to work for you, that know the energy, that feel it if they're there. That sort of breeds out into the industry and into the city, things like that, and people understand and know that. I look back at it, 12. I can't believe it's been 12 years almost, but it's just something that I think it's the hardest thing we do. Right? It's easy to look at financials. It's easy to look at food costs. It's easy to look at, all right, how do we create membership program? How do we integrate new members? All that's not that hard, right? But it's hard to get people to have that feel that. And I tell all my executive team, my job for them, I want them, if I'm like Jarrett or Dean, my head golf professional, I'm like, I need you to go run through that wall. I know the building's burned, but I need you to run through it. And they're like, got it. And they go. They didn't go, why? They said, got it. And I need that instilled in everybody. And to me, sometimes that means, and I told the staff this, I tell them at my all staff meetings, right? I have, and Jared, he could probably tell you, but I probably have some of the most fun all staff meetings, because I'm pretty light. I'm not a intense, angry person. That's just not my MO. And it's not my job to micromanage my team. But I tell them all the time, some of you, it's going to be like my kids. Some of y'all, there's expectations, right? You have the ultimate trust factor. So all you can do by not doing things right is to eke away at that. Some of y'all are going to have to leave the house. We're going to have to kick you out of the house. Doesn't mean we don't care about you, but you're just not going to make it. And you've got to identify that, because whether it's having 7 or 8 professionals down at tennis, right? If you have one that is somewhat of a cancer, it's going to it can destroy the whole team. So you really got to be conscious of that. And you got to watch that, because people tend to have their own desires, concepts. They think they know. We got 1,250 members. Every one of them is a chef plus their spouse, right? Every golf member is an agronomist, right? Same thing with the staff. They all think they have the greatest ideas and everything, and some of them are great ideas. But anyway, you've got to have that ability for that trust factor. And I think that is so critical, and especially in our industry. The hospitality industry is tough, especially after COVID. It's gotten really tough.
I think it's definitely something that you can train, but if you can hire for it, that's even better because it saves you some time, obviously. Would you be able to give us some pointers as to when you're hiring? What are some things that you're looking for that tell you this person's going to be a good fit? They have a good energy, they're a good person. Those are things that are hard to get in an interview, especially because in the interview, you're asking more about experience and level of expertise, but it really comes down to those intangibles that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I feel like that when I get to where I'm interviewing somebody, to me, I already know their skill set. I'm not going in an interview trying to figure out their skill set. Obviously, talking about some of the things they've done, their experience. I'm not going to go read 4 pages of their resume and their giant book they put together because that's just on paper. Anybody can put that, right? I don't think anybody's ever put a bad person as far as a recommendation on their resume either. It's not like I got fired by this guy because I was stealing. Somebody put this person as a recommendation, but really, I think for me, I tell them when I interview them, it's more of a personal conversation situation. They're going to get me, right? They're going to get who I am, how I am, because the last thing I ever want to do is try and be somebody I'm not. And so I think a lot of people in interviews, you know, obviously I'm trying to get the right information, but I'm really just trying to get to know them. I'm walking around, we're talking, I'm asking them questions, right? Giving them not in a test way. Okay, hey, what would you do in that situation? But tell me what do you think about this? What's your thoughts? Do you see anything where, maybe better or change and, excuse me, things like that. But I really am trying to get to know them as a person. I want to get to know their personality. And I really want to talk to them too. I like to talk to people about how do you handle difficult situations, right? Because you just got to pick your battles. And I think it's one of the things, conflict resolution, I think I'm really good at. It's because I've been married for 35 years here pretty soon. Hope I don't forget that date. But I don't want the interview process to be me sitting across from somebody at a table in a coat and tie. Look, I'm going to wear a Royal Oaks golf shirt. I've got Jordans on, right? Mother's Day is Sunday. I'll go to the club. I'll have a coat on and a button down, but I'm not going to wear, I don't know if I wear Jordans. I might. My wife always gets on me when I do that on a coat, but I'll wear a coat and tie a couple times a year. But my members, they're out there to have fun. We already have an advantage. And that's what I tell them when I'm talking to people, whether it's, and again, Jared's been there since, I guess, coming up on, 4 years or something. And it just, time flies. My golf course superintendent was a superintendent at Southern Hills, which has hosted 18 majors. It's the top 100 golf course in the world, in the country. Phenomenal property. And my head pro, and my superintendent's been there. I hired him in 15. My golf course, or my head pro, has been there for 12 and a half years. My controller's been there like 15. My fitness director's been there 35. And it's tough sometimes when you get somebody new that comes in. But it's like, and they've all had opportunities because I think they're the best in the industry. My superintendent's been sought after. He's probably had 15 golf courses in the last 10 years come after him. He doesn't leave. There's a reason he doesn't leave. My head pro's been offered every job in the Metroplex, Northwood, Lakewood, Dallas National, Benttree. They all come after him, and he stays. And he could have made more money. Now, you got to pay him good. But to me, I think they get to know me. And it's to your point. This doesn't happen everywhere. They get to know me, and Todd's not the special one. I'm just a little small piece of this puzzle and pie. I just happen to be the one. When you're the GM, right? And it's fine. It's the way it is. All the shit rolls uphill, right? All the good stuff filters down to your staff. And that's the way it should be, right? But they get to know me and they know that I'm who I am, right? This giant shit show of who I am and out there. I'm never in my office. If you come office and find me, it's very rare. I may be in my office 10 minutes a day. The members aren't there. Then I want to see the members. So they get to know me. They know who I am. They feel that energy and the culture and the excitement of the club, right? So it's my job with them to go, all right, I'm gauging them as much as they're gauging me. How are they interacting? When we walking past members and they're interviewing, are they talking to them? Are they just bypassed? Are they saying hello to one of my housekeeping ladies? I'm gauging them on how they are, and because I want to know how they're going to react, not just an interview. It's easy to fake through an interview, but it's a little tougher. So there's a lot of things I do, I think, during the interview process that are very strategic that they probably don't know, that Jared doesn't even know when I was interviewing him. And I told Jared, I said, this is the best club in the world. I said, of course, I'm going to tell you that. I love Royal Oaks. I said, but I'm telling you, it's the best club. And does it mean it's the greatest golf course in the Metroplex? I'm biased, so I think it's really good. There's some great golf courses in the Metroplex. There are better places in the Metroplex to eat, I got a great chef. It was, executive chef at two different Ritz-Carltons. Yeah, but there's so many great places in Dallas, so I don't have this illusion that we're the best at everything. But I think as you put it all together, I think we are, right, for many reasons. And so I've got to make sure that as I'm talking to somebody that I'm, again, like I said, and I'll reiterate it, having them understand and feel what Royal Oaks is. Because if they don't feel what Royal Oaks is, they're not going to fit. And so it's almost hard for me, if I had to write it down, I'm not sure I could write it down, but it's something that you learn through talking to people. And I think it's more about seeing their interactions, seeing how they're talking to people, and just giving them the sort of the open floor. Just tell me about you and tell me about your family. They all know that. I tell them all the time. I mean, look, if I have to tell one of my executive team when to be at the club, I've hired the wrong person. If I have to tell Jarrett that he needs to be there, then I've got the wrong person. I don't care when anybody's there. If you can do your job in 30 hours, God bless you. I'm not smart enough for that. I can't do it. And none of us can do that because we're in hospitality. But my point is, if you got something going on in your family, go do it. And so it's just finding that right person that I know is going to mesh with the team, because if they're not, it's just not going to work. Like I said,
Todd, you're
Yeah.
very people centric, and I think that's great. I do believe that, some of the brightest people have overcome some of the biggest challenges in adversity. What's the biggest challenge you've ever had in your career, and how did you overcome it?
a great question. I've been pretty fortunate. I'm a little bit different. I birthed out of the golf side, right? So I played D1 college golf, started when I was 2. I was really, I used to really be good. And then I was always going to play. And so then I was like, okay, I got married. My wife said, that's nice, but you need to make some money. And I just was like, I'll get in the golf business. I love people. I love golf. And I got in, I was an assistant pro, and then I became a head pro. I was a class A when I was 23. And then I was at a club in Houston, a great club called Houston Oaks in 95. They fired the GM, and I'm like, I can do it. It can't be that hard. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was there for 6 years, and I think we got sold 3 times. And I just learned through the process, right? I wasn't going to CMAA stuff. I didn't even know anything about that back then. And so I just learned. And then I went to work for the PGA Tour running TPC clubs, South Florida, Raleigh, and then back in Texas. And I learned more the first year about being a GM than I did in 6 years of my other clubs. But I think that the toughest thing I would say and I've been at everything from like resort daily fee, more private high end stuff than anything, which is what I love, because you can build those relationships. Coming to Royal Oaks, the first time I've been, and I've been in a one owner club, things like that. But coming to Royal Oaks, now you have a 9-member board, right? And you've got committees. We used to have 450. I had a swim committee, tennis committee, wine committee, house committee. I was like, I mean, I was in committee meetings, and I finally had a president goes, "Do we need all these?" I'm like, "No." I said, "This is stupid." So we knocked it down. I've got like maybe 5 or 6. So I think the toughest thing for me was learning, because everybody on a committee, these board members, which you got lawyers, doctors, business owners, CEOs. It's amazing how they're all experts at club operations, right?
Yeah.
And it's like the finance committee. They all understand. They go, why does food and beverage lose money? I'm like, okay, golf course maintenance loses $3 million a year. So yeah, it's hard to explain them. And I'm like, we're not paying servers $4.50 an hour. They're not getting insurance at the high end steak restaurant, right? There's no 401k. There's none of that stuff. And so here's what we're doing here. So it's hard to understand. It's hard for them to understand. But I think the toughest thing is that. And I think the toughest thing too is I've got a president, 1 year term, which is terrible. I keep trying to work through and figure out how do we go at least a 2 year term. We're right now we got 2 years out, but we've hired an architect. We've done strategic survey, and we're looking at a big, huge clubhouse renovation. And I'm on my 4th president, and we haven't done anything yet. Now we just hired an architect in Marsh that's doing our master planning, but it's 4 presidents. So it's all right, rewind, play. All right, rewind, play. And you get three new board members. They serve a 3-year term every year. So the toughest thing for me, it's just it's like you're constantly educating and teaching people so they understand that aspect. And of course, the members, again, they think that they have the greatest ideas in the world. So I think it's it's always trying to tell people, like Scotty Scheffler. Obviously, Scotty grew up at the club and #1 golfer in the world, and he's at the club all the time. I was sitting down with him and his longtime coach, Randy Smith, yesterday at lunch. We were in the 19th hole and talking to him. And we've known Scotty since he was 6. He's 28. He's the #1 player in the world, but it's not like you're like, wow, now Tiger Woods walked in, that's pretty cool. It's Tiger Woods. I'm like, that's Scotty. So the members think when Scotty won his Masters, we can do a big party for Scotty. I'm like, to them, that's a great idea. And I'm like, Scotty doesn't want to do that. He don't want to be in a room for 5 hours with 400 people potentially doing that. So it's taking people because everybody's got an idea. I think the toughest thing is trying to tell them that idea is ridiculous without telling them it's ridiculous. You'd be like, because you want to, in my mind, I'm thinking that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but I've got to spin it so that they think that I really care. So I think that part of it because they're all 575 resident stockholder members, right? They're all owners, so they all think that they have a say. And I think that's the toughest thing, but it can also be the best thing, if that makes sense. Just because I don't have to deal with disciplinary issues if something happens. I pass it off to my president of the board, give them the information, they can handle it. I've been at clubs where I've had to handle it. But I think that's the toughest. And then just retention of staff. Again, in the hospitality, that's probably the biggest thing right now. I spoke at a Lone Star chapter, our CMA chapter deal I was with Ray Tulio, who's the GM over Lakewood, John Davis at Northwood, and Kurt Kelly, a good friend of mine who's at Preston Trail, and we're in this panel. And they were asking, what's the biggest or the most difficult thing now? Honestly, I think it's cross-generational. It's managing these cross-generations, right? Because they're so vastly different. When coming out, I'm almost 58. When I worked, you're working 70 hours a week. That's just part of the deal. I had babies and kids running around. Fortunately, my wife didn't work. We didn't have a pot to piss in. Now these kids, it's like, what do you mean? I worked 40 hours this week. And you're like, that's like I told my youngest, I'm like, not now, but 7, 8 years ago, I'm like, shit, you have time to get another job. And so I think that's been the toughest thing as of, I would say, the last several years is just managing those cross generations. And you got to know, and you got to figure them out. You got to figure out what drives them, because it's not that they're lazy. And it's not that any generation, I would say, I think my generation's the best, but it's not that any generation is necessarily the best. They're just different. So you got to know how to, and it's not the same management style. Now, there's a lot out there, but it's still fun. I like it because it's a challenge, right? It's always a challenge. Every day's different. You just never know what you're going to get.
And you talked about conflict resolution and how that's a big part of what you do. And not necessarily conflict, doesn't have to be like argument, right? But just handling different perspectives. I can't imagine having a different president every year. That sounds like a huge challenge just because of that difference of
Yeah.
opinions and what they think might be the best thing for the club. Any tips or tricks for us on how to really handle that? New visions coming in or conflicting views. How do you maneuver that?
Yeah, I think it's different every time. I'll say this in regards to, let's just say board members as an example, right? I think the toughest board members for me in my career, always doctors tend to view themselves as a little bit like godlike. And I don't mean that in a bad way. They're curing some, I won't even get started on the whole medical side of things. But anyway, but they think they're helping people prescribe medication. If they're surgeons, are doing that stuff, right? And helping people. And so I think that's the toughest. And it's hard. I think the biggest thing is probably listening. And for me, I would say that I don't ever want to say it's an opportunity. Like when I worked for the PGA Tour and running TPCs, we never had a problem. We always had an opportunity, right? So it's just positive affirmation on things. Somebody says somebody's pissed off because of this. I'm like, okay, we got an opportunity. And I think it's that way with the board members because it just takes time. You have to listen, and then you got to evaluate. And then for me, I have to not get defensive because it's easier for me to go, you have no idea what you're talking about. You want us to do this, whatever this is. Okay, let's just say it's elevate service down at the practice area. We have two-sided range with indoor hitting bays and cameras and chipping and putting, all that stuff. It's like, well, we need more services down there. It shouldn't be expensive. I'm like, well, it's people, right? And it's the most expensive thing out there, labor. So I think a lot of that is you have to listen, and then you have to be able to explain it in a way you got to back it up with facts and things like that. That seems to me to be, I think, the biggest thing. And for most people, even when people come in, and my head golf pro is really good at it too. Of course, he's Australian, right? So he's got the great accent. It didn't even matter what he says. He can be like, oh, yeah, right, yeah, piss off. And they'll be like, okay, thanks. I'm like, you just told them to piss off, and we're happy about it. But
That's so true, by the way.
yeah, I know. It's such bullshit. It pisses me off. He's such a nice guy too, and they just love him, and he's just that accent. And yeah, but I think it was great. I was out with him. A quick story. We were out and there was a tournament, I don't know, last year, and I was riding with him because I like to go out and see the people and just so they think we care, which we do, and see how it's going. and this group's behind, and they come up, and Dean, my head pro, he's, yeah, I said that if you guys could pick it up a little bit, it'd be great. He says it so nice, and they're like, we're trying, but we suck. He goes, yeah, suck fast. So I was like, that's pretty good. Suck fast.
So
So
fast.
yeah, suck faster. I think so much of it with people that I've learned in my career, I think I was really defensive early. Let's see, maybe I'd say it's taken me 35 years to learn this, but I think people a lot of times just want to be heard. And a lot of times I'll just listen to people and I'm like, okay. I said, I appreciate that. Thanks for letting me know. I'll take a look. I don't know if we can do anything, but I appreciate you letting me know. And I think sometimes they just want to be heard, right? And honestly, some people are just asses. Some people, there's just asses in the world, and it's just how it's going to be. Everybody's got a unique situation. They want a golf course designed this way, or they want to put a tree here, a bunker here. Somebody thinks that we should turn two of our tennis courts into more pickleball courts. The tennis people think pickleball sucks. So it's this dichotomy between what they want. You just got to be able to listen to them, and doesn't mean which I hate, sir. I think surveys are the worst thing in the world, right? We just did one, and it was more of a strategic survey talking about that. And we haven't done one since I've been there, and I've told them it's terrible. It doesn't work. We did it every year when I was with the tour, and every year I did employee survey, member survey, the same thing. Prices are too high. We need better food. We need lower dues. Employees are like, we need more benefits. We need to get paid more. I need more time off. Didn't need a survey. I could tell you, I say, here's what it's going to be. And you get 46% of the people that fill it out. I don't fill out surveys ever unless I'm really pissed.
Mm-hmm.
I have to really be upset to fill out a survey. And so you get 46% of the people they say that's good. That's not good. You're getting half your people. And most of the time for people that if their things are good, they're not going to fill it out. So the people that are complaining to you in person are typically the people filling out surveys. Doesn't mean you can't get good feedback on that. But I think that it's a situation where people just want to be heard. It doesn't mean that you have to do everything. They just want to be heard. And some people are just going to think they don't ever listen to me. They don't use my ideas. It's just part of the deal. Yeah.
I love a survey, by the way, but I think they're tricky. You do have to
Right.
set them up the right way.
Yeah. You do.
Probably an outside person to really guide you through that. And you're 100% right on the doctors. My sister's a surgeon, so I have to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, I've got one of my past presidents who's one of my favorite past presidents. He's an orthopedic surgeon, and he just calls himself a dumb shoulder doctor. So he's an anomaly in that situation. And you get a doctor who all of a sudden he's been a board member for a month that is talking about food and beverage and costs and things like that. I'm like, the chef's been here for 3 weeks. There's going to be some speed bumps and hurdles and just no idea. And it's
Yeah.
okay. You got to be very good at, like I said, I have to be very thoughtful. I can't just fire things off the top of what my mind thinks. I think I used to do that a lot. Now it's send an email. If you want to send an email to somebody and whether it's a strong response, hell, now I'll just use AI. But I always type up an email response and then I'll walk away and then I'll come back hours later, read it, make sure it makes sense, get somebody to look at it, because I don't want to ever send anything that's going to come out to feel like I don't want to feel somebody feel defensive or that I'm antagonistic about it. I want it to be good. So you got to take time. And some of that I think comes with maturity.
100%. I've learned that the hard way. To not react and not react by email because
Yeah.
email it can be so misinterpreted so easily. Now, of course, with AI, you just make this sound nicer.
Yeah.
Pulls it
That's
out.
right.
It's really tricky too because the brain only has two gears, right? It has the logical gear and it has the emotional gear. And if you get an email from
Yeah.
a member and they're pretty hot, you know the answer and you want to put them in your place, it's very easy to fire that one off. But again, because you're emotional, you're also not logical. So it's just a very fine balance.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah.
is. Like I had a member that she thinks she's a foodie, and they're all foodies, right? Everybody is.
Of course,
But
they're the best
yeah,
places.
yeah, and I don't know. Too many members have my cell phone, but I'm never off. My wife will get mad if we're on vacation in Jamaica and I'm answering emails and texts. But she emailed me like, I think we do this Taco Tuesday specials, and we do like Asian on Wednesday, and we always had specials and steak all the. But she said, I just don't think that Taco Tuesday. She told me, Todd, I don't think Taco Tuesday is elegant enough for the club. It's not like we're giving hard shell beef tacos with cheese. That's not. That's really cool. My chef is from. Where's he from originally? I think like Brazil or anyways. Juan Pablo, and he's phenomenal. And so she said, we can't come up on Wednesdays and Thursdays, so Tuesday. And I'm like, okay, I thought about it for a while, and I'm like, I just respond back. I said, hey, thanks. I appreciate the input. I said, let me get with Chef, just talk to him a little bit and see. And then I went and ran some numbers, and I'm like, we're doing a ton of these specials on Tuesday. So I haven't responded back to you. I just told her, I said, I'll get back to you. And I'm just going to respond back, say, hey, I talked to Chef. We're going to run this through May, but I appreciate the input. He's going to make some changes in June, because we probably would have run it through June. I'm going to tell her, say, just so you know, it's probably the biggest special that we've done. I realize you don't like them, but we also have these specials on these days. And I did talk to Chef. We're going to make a change here in a couple of weeks. But what I want to say is, people love it. You just want it to be the night that you can come up. You want some specials to be for you. And again, it's back to the way people think. And I understand that. So it's just that fine line, like we talked about, of that. And I will stay back to what you said. Look, the reason I don't like surveys is I don't think they're done right ever. Pete, you have to be very strategic on how and what you ask, right? You can't set people up to answer a question. The reason I like them too, somebody's going to bitch about a steak they had in January on a survey in November, right? People were bitching about in the survey we did, which was more strategic. We're trying to get an idea for what their appetite was for assessment and all capital dues and all this stuff. But we asked some questions in there, and it's the person just responded to something that I know, like when we did it, I think we did it in August. They responded to something that happened to the golf course in February. I'm like, well, but that's just dumb. You got to be very careful. You can get some, and we got some great information. We got the information we wanted, but you get a lot much, and you got to filter through that stuff. It's got to be, you can't, again, then that's the tough thing too, going to the board, go, okay, hold on. People are saying that we need more programs in tennis. There's nobody that does as much program in tennis, anybody in the country for like size. There's no way. Or junior programs or junior golf, we can't do anymore. So some of that you got to take and filter out. But yeah, but you're right. You got to do them right. They got to be done the right way.
You guys have arguably one of the biggest rackets programs in the country. And that was going to be one of our questions to you is how did that happen? Did it happen basically when you brought Jared in? Were you guys already there? Did it just happen overnight? Like, how have you guys become so big in the rackets world?
Yeah, I think some of it's a little bit luck, and some of it is obviously it's critical. Like I remember I was at a CMAA function. It was probably back in. See, we built a pickleball courts in 21 maybe, and so I was at a CMAA conference, and I think I was in Florida. I can't remember if it was in 17 maybe, and I was going through the Idea Fair, which is always my favorite place to go down there. I don't know if you've ever been. The CMAA World Conference is huge. There's people all over the world there. Great education. And they have an Idea Fair. So you go in this huge room at the convention center. It's all these really well done sort of poster. It's not a post. I say poster on different ideas. So they've got a section for kids and rackets and golf and tournaments and all this stuff. I just go through there and take pictures and send it to my director of child minding or my kids. My head, I'm just sending pictures. I'm like, these are great ideas. Let's look at it, Steve. Let's just steal them. We don't need to invent all these ideas. Let's just go in there and I'll take them. And I saw this pickleball and I'm like, what the hell is pickleball? So I'm Googling on my phone because I never heard of pickleball back then. And I was like, damn, that's pretty cool. I did a little research. And I came back, I told the board, I go, hey, I need an extra $500,000 to build pickleball courts because I had room. I couldn't build any additional tennis courts. I could have built one. That doesn't help us. And it would have been going opposite of the other ones. That didn't help. So I had room to build 6 pickleball. And they're like, pickleball? They're like, you need a $500,000? What's pickleball? I said, I'm telling you, it's coming. I said, it's supposedly like one of the fastest growing sports. It's just coming. And so I got him to do that. And when I started interviewing Jared, I could see his energy. I did a lot of background checking on him, not criminal stuff, but just looking at what he'd done, where he'd been, what's going on, and listen to him and talk to him. And I could just tell this is a person that had the ideas and knew what he wanted to do, was probably held back up at Baltimore. And so I told Jared, I go, we're going to build 6 pickleball courts. And so I'd had the only reason I even kept him probably for a couple extra years, I should have got rid of him, was because COVID. And I told him, I go, look, COVID saved your job because we're shut down. There's people are playing tennis. And he just didn't do it right. He wasn't creating any new innovative ideas. Because tennis or racquetball, or pickleball, right? You got the serious people, right? The USTA and then TCD, which is Tennis Competitors of Dallas, which I don't know why they play that because we don't run it. It's run by Dallas TCD, but they love it. They don't win anything if they win their deal, but they love it. And then you got people that want to play in sort of the club stuff, and then you got fun stuff. Just I'm out there to be social, right? So you got to have all the different dynamics, and we didn't have as much social. And so just listen to Jared and he coming in and I'm like, Jared, look, when you come in, here's the things we need to do. We can't let the members determine what we're going to do from that. Doesn't mean they don't have good ideas. You can't listen. But okay, Jared, we have this many TCD teams. We don't want to grow this. And I told him, I said, we need to somehow grow that program without growing that program. So create feeder league, stuff like that, where Jared has created, it's become its own little feeder league. I really want to create a league. I tried this with my last director for a while. I'm like, we got Dallas Country Club, Northwood, Lakewood, Bentry. We have these great clubs. Why aren't we playing an inter club with them with all their tennis? I don't understand why we don't do that. And Jared's got that going. So you just created all this excitement. We just did this Nerf Wars, I think last week in the indoor tennis courts as kids. We've got Water Wars coming up down there. We do Mahjong and market nights down there, and there Mahjong and pickleball. So there's just something for everybody. I'll give Jarrett 95% of the credit. I'll take 5% just because I hired him. And again, like I told him, I said, this is the best place you're ever going to come. And I said, it's like Jarrett. I'm like, when I introduced myself and I said, that's my truck. It's an F-250. That was at the time. It's an F-250. Got a 10-inch lift with big tires. It's huge, which is good and bad because the members all know if I'm there and then they know if I'm not there. But I just gave him and I said, look, my job is not to run your program. You're the expert. You tell me what you need. I'm your resource. And I'll tell you that if there's some things that we can't do because financially it doesn't make sense now, we'll do it later. But Jared will say, I bet you 95% of the things that he's come to me at, I'm like, let's do it. Let's do it. And it's grown. You always have that initial people resistance because it's been this way. And that doesn't mean it's the right way. And I think now there's just the excitement down at tennis and things that we do down there it's just over time. You keep adding things to make that member enhancement, that member experience better and it's not just always here's more free shit or I don't know, about a month ago, I was like, all right, we in our turn over by the golf course and we have in fitness, we have in the men's 19th hole, the women's 19th hole, we have it at tennis. I call it free shit road because it's different nuts and peanuts and M&Ms and all the bullshit, right? And I don't know, about a month ago, I was like, I need to put some Uncrustables in there. And I'll just put it and see what people think. And I put peanut butter and grape and peanut butter and strawberry. You'd have thought that they won the lottery. It's the damnedest thing ever. It's crazy. And it's mind numbing to me. Everybody loves it. And we put them on the golf course out in the comfort stations. And I told Jared, I can't just put them out everywhere because the kids will take 10 home and we'll run out. So I said, put them out for events. And then chefs started making these protein balls for people, which basically it's a freaking Snickers. It's peanut butter chocolate with some, I don't know, some seeds or some bullshit on top, and they call it a protein bar. It's bullshit. But they love it. They think it's the greatest thing ever. And it's just things like that I think that Jared's come up with, and I'll come up with a few things. But not only that, he'll listen to his staff, his team, because Jared doesn't have all the ideas. His team has great ideas. And if it makes sense, then you do it. So it's just, and we've grown that program, the tennis and racket program, so big. Pickleball's obviously been huge. We do so many parties and things like that. So we're looking down the road. If we did this redo, how do we expand that down there to make it even better? So it's been pretty cool to see this, and it just continues to build. That's the saying that you're either backing up or moving forward, right? You can't get there whether it's you don't see the greatest tennis players or you don't see Ben Johnson. Somebody could be like, all right, I got it. All right, I got it. I don't need to practice anymore. I've got my pickleball. I've got it there. Tiger Woods didn't go, I got it. He changed his swing. And I think that's the same way because everybody's striving to make their club the best it can be. And I tell everybody, I don't want to be Northwood. I don't want to be Dallas Country Club. We can't be anyway. That's just a whole different dynamic. But I don't need to be anybody else. We need to be Royal Oaks. And Royal Oaks has always been this family-friendly culture. Right? When you come in that gate, if you remember, leave your ego out the door. We don't play the ego game. We just don't play that. It doesn't matter if you're worth $250 billion or whether you're just able to make your monthly payment and do a little bit. It doesn't matter. So we really try and make that and keep that moving. And it's been that way for 55 years. And a lot of that's attributed to Randy Smith, who has been the golf pro there, taught Justin Leonard and now Scotty Scheffler and Ron Palmer and Colton Nelson and all these players. And we just continue that. It's a very family friendly atmosphere and the members know we care. If I have a member that dies and for people close, you'll see 15 employees show up at the funeral. So I don't think you get that everywhere. Yeah.
Definitely not. I have one more question, then I think Kyle should ask some questions because I feel like I'm taking over here. But I wanted to ask you about hiring Jared. Was there something that made it click for you when you were interviewing Jared?
Probably the fact he wasn't really any taller than me because I'm not a tall guy. No, I'm kidding. I don't ever feel short unless I stand next to two people that are like 6'5". But I love a couple things. One is probably the first one, honestly. Ultimately, the first thing you know about is somebody's experience and knowledge, right? And looking back at where he had been, what he had done, who he knew. I mean, him in the industry. And so I think that was the initial thing. And then really learning about him as a person. And Jared cares a lot. Sometimes he gets, it's almost, and we all take things personal, but Jared sometimes, he'll send me something about so and so. I'm like, who cares? I go, piss on him. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. I said, don't get all locked up into, because you take that so personal sometimes. And he's gotten a lot better at that. And I don't mean that as a flaw. I think it's a good character trait. And I'm the same way. I don't want anybody to be mad at me. I don't want anybody to be upset. I don't want anybody to not love the club. And it bothers me if that happens, but we can make plenty of mistakes. Let's just not make the same stupid mistake over and over. And so I think with Jared, it was, but it was it was who he was as a person. I thought that, which is very critical to me, is I want to, and I thought this about Jared, he's a very good family man. And Jared knows, and it's my deal, like I said before, if you have stuff for your kid, don't miss the stuff for your kid. If I did that with my kids, my oldest, my daughter, she's 34. I didn't miss it, and I was working my ass off then. But if she had a recital for dance, I would leave and go to the recital, and I may have to go back. I wasn't going to miss anything with whether it was my boys, my two boys, the younger two. If they had games, I was going to go. And that doesn't mean that I took the whole day off. And if you can do that too, great, good on you. But I think I knew that he's a family guy, super, his wife's super sweet, Bridget. He's got great kids. I watch how they're involved. And I just thought that I sensed it. Again, that's probably one of the few things I'm good. I can sense good people. And I sensed that inner, just really good person who he was. And he had that heart that, again, I don't think you can teach it. I just don't think you can I don't think you can teach the heart to want to to service people and to take care of people. Right. And there's some learning curves in there. I tell Jared, I go, look, people no show and stuff, we can't charge them, right? They just think that we're nickel and dime and things like that. And I understand why we do some of that. But I said, you're going to be a hero. You'll be a hero on some things. You just can't sweat the small stuff. Great book, by the way. And so I really think that for him, it started out with his experience, his knowledge, and then just talking to him. I'm like, this guy's got ideas, right? And because we talked a lot before he ever even came down, we were talking all the time. And again, knowing his background, knowing what he had done and what he'd accomplished. And I thought to just listen to him, I thought there was a lot more he could have accomplished if he'd had the support that he needed. And I don't want to disparage anybody. I don't know that he got the full support that he needed to do this stuff. And some of it maybe isn't, whether it's a GM or maybe it's not their fault, it's their board, stuff like that. But the GM's got to know how to take that to the board and sell it if it needs to be sold, and to take that. And the other thing I knew is, you talk about somebody's connected in industry. He's way more connected now. And I just felt like he was going to be the one to make the racket program fun, because it wasn't fun at first. I went through two directors, and the first one, it just wasn't anything happening. And so I had to make a change there. My second one was okay for a couple of years, and then it just got to where it was just, the Outlaws were running the asylum. And I just knew that he had a lot of good ideas. He had that heart. And again, for me, heart's big. And once I get to heart, I'm going to know if you have the experience and knowledge, right? It's not, okay, they have the heart, so this guy's a great heart, so I'm going to hire him as a head golf professional. I'll be like, the guy doesn't play golf. So he doesn't know anything about tournament operation, about running a golf shop and managing. I think those are the key attributes with Jared. And I would say that he, as good as I felt like he was going to be, he's definitely exceeded my expectations from that perspective.
And you mentioned about family and about how you don't miss any family functions. And what's your take on, and this is a big pet peeve of mine, but what's your take on the work-life balance? I personally don't believe in it because I don't think we're ever balanced. I more call it work-life management. But what's your take on that work-life management in the service hospitality industry? Do you think there's a defined
Yeah.
line? Do you think it's like all or nothing, just go for it? What's your take?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a great saying. It doesn't happen. Like at the end of the day, if I get home by 7, my wife loves it. I don't have any kids here, so my wife's a teacher, so she's home at 4, and then she's off in the summer, and I'm working. So I do have to be very aware that I can't just leave my wife here by herself all the time. You do try and have a work life balance. To your point, it really doesn't happen, right? I'm at the club generally. Let's say I get there, if nothing's happened in the morning, I'm not going to bust in there. I don't need to be there at 8 a.m. unless we got something going on. But I'm going to be there. I'll be there late Friday. I'm going to be there late Friday because everybody's there. It's happening. It's going to be a good day. It's my favorite day of the week. It's the busiest club is. But you can't miss some important things, right? There's important things that you're never going to get back with your kids. And at the end of the day, it's the old adage, we all heard it, right? Nobody ever is on their deathbed saying, "Oh, I wish I could have put in an extra 10 hours a week." It's never going to happen. They're going to be like, always, "I wish I would have spent more time with my family." And, but in the same breath, there's a lot of expectation, and I would say Jared's probably as bad as I am. My head pros, as far as Jared will answer his phone no matter where he is, he'll respond, right? And it's good. Like me, now the members expect it. If I'm awake and my phone pops, rings, text, or whatever, I'll answer it, right? I'll answer that. Now, if I don't know the answer, I'll tell them I'll get back with them. But in the same breath, like my golf course superintendent, he was going to go leave last Thursday with his dad for his birthday and play some golf. He's from Ohio. And we had some stuff on the golf course, and he's, "I don't think I should go." And I go, "Let me ask you a question." His name's KD. And I do feel short around him because he's about 6'5". I said, "KD," I said, "you got two assistants, right? You got one who's been with you for about 5 or 6 years, and he's really good. So do you trust him? Is he ready to be a superintendent?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Okay, do you trust him?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Then if you trust him, then you know he's going to take care of it. If not, you need to get rid of him, honestly." And I said, "That's something that's special for your dad, whatever, 75th birthday." So there's certain things I think you can't miss. But yeah, man, we got Easter this Sunday. My daughter she's got her youngest. She's got a 4.5, 2.5-year-old boy, and then a 8-month-old daughter, and they're gonna do a little dedication at their church, and they live like 45 minutes away from us, probably about 25 minutes from the club, and it's at 9 o'clock when we got Easter Sunday. And my wife goes, "Are you gonna go?" And I go, "I'll probably go. I don't need to be there for the first person to show up at Easter." I'm like, I can go, leave, and go straight to the work. So I'll go if that's important to my daughter, because those memories are gone, not gone, but those moments are going to go quick, as we know. And I do tell my staff. Yesterday, my head pro, he sounded like hell. He looked like hell, and he's never wanted to really go home if he's sick. And I'm like, "Hey, you need to go home." I said, "I don't know what you got, but I don't want it, and nobody else does." I said, "You need to go home." And we had a big ladies member guest, and he said, "We got that." I'm like, "Listen, you got two bra pros that are handling. I'll go up there. I'll be there the whole time. I'll tell them you're sick. You're never not going to be here if you can't. They don't want you around getting them sick either." And it was fine. There's certain things like that. But yeah, I think you're right. There's no balance. You can't spend, if I'm awake, I'll sleep about 6 hours. I'm not going to spend half the time at work and half the time at home. I can't. Now, if we didn't have Mother's Day, I don't go in on Sundays. My wife's a teacher, so I'm not going to see her if I don't. And Saturdays, we got a tournament Saturday, so I'll be there till the tournament finishes, and then I'll come home. And hell, I live on the lake. We got a wakeboard boat, a couple of cities. I want to go on the lake. So if I don't come home, I can't go out there on a Thursday afternoon at 4 by myself. But it's hard. In our industry, it's not. We don't get the Friday off, Saturday, Sunday, Monday holidays. We're like, it's on. It's busy Friday, and then Monday we don't open many Mondays. We open like Labor Day and Memorial Day. But I think it is a difficult thing. You just have to be very intentional, I think, when you are off and around your family. And I'm probably not very good at it because I'm always trying to look at my phone and see what's going on, see if I need to answer an email. But that's just how I'm built. My wife knows it, 35 years. But yeah, there's no work-life balance. I think you framed it and you termed it perfectly. It's work-life management. It's just managing that, taking the time for the important things. I haven't seen my brother. I've got his son had a kid. I don't know, or whatever. It's his first grandson. Like, he's my younger brother, like a month ago. I haven't seen that grandbaby. I will, but I've just been busy. It's important, but it's not at the top of my priority. So
Yeah.
you got to prioritize stuff.
I think if you're too worried about balance, it probably is a sign that you hate your job
Mhm.
if you're so worried about it. Because when you're doing something you love, you don't mind it really. You want to be doing that anyway. So I think that if you're really worried about that, you should take a look at what you're doing, and maybe you're in the wrong path, or maybe you need to find a way to love it again. Maybe you've lost your love for it, but yeah, if you're doing something you enjoy, you shouldn't have to worry about that so much.
I think I'll tell my wife. My wife knows I've got a 2 hour window between I say I'm leaving and I actually leave. If I walk through the 19th hole, if I think, all right, nothing really going on, and it's not going to be a super
Mhm.
busy night, then I'm going to walk through the 19th hole and I'm going to go get in my truck at 5:30 or 6 or something. I walk through and then I end up in the truck at 7:30. I'm talking to people, or I sit down, I'm talking to members, and they love that because I'm being very intentional, right? Yeah, it's kind of I'm there, be there, which is part of the whole fish philosophy, if you know that. I'm there and I'm listening to them, and it's like you said, I like it. I like being
Yeah.
there, and are there days that I don't like being there. Yeah, I had a really rough July last year through about January because of my chef situation, and he had some medical stuff, and he went out and I didn't have, and I'm scrambling trying to, and that was hard, very stressful. So I really didn't enjoy that period, which is probably the only time in my career. But also was like, I can handle it. It'll be okay. We're going to get through this. You just got to keep pushing. But I, I love being there. I love talking to people. I love being around and, excuse me, walking around and talking to the members and, letting them talk and give me their opinions and ideas. And you said it. I think if you're so worried about that, if you get there, like I said earlier, if you're like, geez, I can't wait for it to be like 5 o'clock so I can go home at 5 o'clock, you're in the wrong gig. You shouldn't be there. I mean, you
Yeah,
just shouldn't. Yeah.
that tells you right there.
Yeah. And
This might
Yeah.
not be for
and
you.
I
Yeah.
think the way to sum up you as a boss, as a GM, as a leader is that you treat your staff like people and you let them do their jobs, right? Players play, coaches coach, managers manage. And I think that's a great way to sum up the culture at Royal Oak. So thank you very much.
Yeah. And I'll say this. I don't know. Maybe I would say maybe I'm wrong. I don't think so, but I'm very close to Jared, very close to my head golf professional, my golf course superintendent. We have a golf professional. His name is Abe. He used to work at the club when Randy Smith was the head golf professional years ago. He left because he went and got a head pro job, and he was with Club Corp, invited, whatever the hell they call it now. He went to another club, then he went with them, and then he called. And there's nobody that's like more pro PGA of America than this guy. And he called me. He wasn't working there. And he called me one day. He said, "I think I'm going to get out of the business." And I said, "All right." I said, "Come see me." And I knew his name's Abe. I said, "Okay, you come to my office." I was a Royal Oaks. I said, "Come see me." And he sat down and I said, "So let me get this straight. Because of your situation, you're going to take the thing you love more than anybody." He's got a tattoo of the PGA of, no, I do too, of the PGA of America back here. And so,
Jeez.
of course, I also got Texas right there. And you want to see my tramp stamp? No, I'm kidding. I don't have one. I'm just kidding. But he
Shot.
said, "Come on, yeah. I got another. I got a Longhorn over there." But he said, and I said, "You're going to take your situation to your point, and you're going to let that dictate and get you out of the thing you love more than anything." And I said, "That's ridiculous." And so through the conversation, he had called me and he said, "If there's ever an opportunity, I'd love to come back." This guy left being a head golf professional. We don't call our assistant pros assistants. They're just golf professionals. And he came back. He's been back at the club, and he just is off the charts. He's the Pied Piper of kids golf. He doesn't have any kids, but he's the kids love it. It's a Pied Piper. He'll never leave. Now, he makes great money, and he could probably go make a lot more money. He doesn't have any kids at home. If you don't have any kids, you can have a lot of money. Or grandkids, right? That doesn't slow that up either. But it's really cool. But I have such a great relationship. Like myself, my head pro, our assistant, we go to the Masters every year, and we get an Airbnb. We go, and I'm not there as the GM, their boss. We're there as much as friends, and they'll do anything. And sometimes you think it's that fine line, right? Because if you got to get rid of somebody, I'm like, you should develop that work relationship so you know that those people are so engaged and so dedicated, they're going to run through a wall. You're not going to ever worry about whether or not, the only thing you're concerned about is somebody going to steal them. And so it is hard, and it can be hard from that perspective. But I think and again, look, I think most of the clubs out there, I'm sure there's a lot of great clubs out there of great cultures, but I think most people miss it. I just don't think they get it. They don't understand how to create that drive, that internal passion with their staff. And again, you have to know again, I said this earlier. I can tell you about any staff member of the club. Now, if they're brand new, I don't know them yet, but I'm getting to know them. And I can tell you about if they have family, and they know if you're full of shit or not. I was asking one of my line cooks last night. I go, "How's your family? How's your grandkids?" He got two of them. I said, "Show me pictures." "How old is she now?" "What is she, like 5?" He said, "Oh yeah, she's 5 now." He's a Hispanic guy. He's showing me. He knows I care because I didn't just go, "How's your grandkids?" one time and I never asked again. But it's because I care, and you can't teach that. And I think it's the same way. You got to have that passion with, like I said, with the members, and you got to have your team have that same passion. I think that's the hard thing, and that's the thing that we do the best. That Jared does a great job. He really wants to do things to take care of the members, create those programs, create that fun, and the competitive and the social aspect. And all my executive teams like that. I'm fortunate because I've got a great team, and they probably make me look better than I am. But I do think, like I said, I'm not good at much. I'm good at hiring people, retaining people, creating a culture. And beyond that, I'm probably just half-assed at most at best things. But I wish it's almost, and I had thought about it several years ago. I was like, maybe I should start my own business and figure out a way to go around the clubs and teach people how to create cultures. And then I was like, piss on them. We'll keep it at our club. I don't want to do that. I want it to be our deal. So, yeah, it's a cool place. It's a great club. The membership is awesome. I got an incredible staff, incredible team. Jared, what he's done with tennis and just all of my directors is really cool. And it's fun to see the success you have and see the members really enjoy it and have a good time, and the staff having fun. Because if the staff's not having fun, to your point, is why are you doing it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's really cool. Thank you so much. And I'm so jealous you get to go to the Masters. I was talking about that with my husband. I'm like, we need to go to the Masters.
It's the coolest thing. Yeah, it's cool too. I'm good friends with the higher up in one of the golf cart companies, and so I'm able to get sometimes some extra. And I always try and take my president, and most of the time they hadn't been. So this year my president couldn't go. He was in Portugal or something. So my two past presidents were like, "We'll go," and I'm like, "I don't have 2 extra tickets," so I managed to get them. So we're there, we're drinking beer and having fun, and it's just really cool. I mean, fortunate because I am a PGA Class A member. I'm also part of the CMA, but I'm a PGA Class A, so you get in for free every year. So we just fly up, get a ticket, and it's funny. It's when you go, you're like, "Holy cow!" You're just in awe. And so you think that when you go the next time, you're like, "I've seen it," and I swear every year I'm like, wow, it's just mind numbing. Yeah, it's probably the coolest spot that you can go to as far as just the beauty. My wife didn't play golf, and I took her one year back in about, I don't know, 17. And she knows golf, obviously, but she doesn't play it. And she was like, wow, yeah, it's pretty spectacular.
I
Fun.
bet. Gosh, I wish we had that, Kyle. Where's our US
I
Open
know.
tickets, right?
Goodness.
I know. They should do that. You should have that. That's ridiculous.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate y'all's time. Yeah, sorry for rambling. I know I do that, but when I'm very passionate about something, I like to talk about it. And I'm very proud of Royal Oaks and our team. And today we're going to go in, we're going to try and think of some cool ideas and make the members' experience even better. And I look forward to going to work. It's a pretty fun place to be.
No, thank you so much. And no, you were excellent. And I know you're proud of Royal Oaks, but I can tell you, knowing some of the staff in the rackets department with Jared and Brandon and Chris, they're extremely proud of you. So I think the feeling's mutual.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Got an incredible team. I put up our team against anybody in the country, anybody in the world for all that matters.
It's not fair. It's what we
Appreciate
call hoarding talent. It's not fair. All right. Thank you, Todd.
Yeah. You got it. Thank y'all. Y'all have a great day. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You
Bye.
too.